Commander Aelyra of the Thauran Dominion had studied extinction events her entire life. She had watched stars collapse into singularities. She had documented planets stripped bare by gamma bursts. She had seen civilizations far older than humanity vanish in silence, reduced to drifting debris and archived warnings. And she had reached one unshakable conclusion. Humans would not last. They were fragile, soft tissue, weak skeletal density, emotional volatility, limited lifespans. In the grand equations of survival, they were statistical noise. So, when the Galactic Council assigned her to observe Earth during the approach of the Catastrophic swarm, she considered it an academic exercise. The swarm had consumed 12 systems in under a decade. They were not conquerors. They did not negotiate. They did not enslave. They harvested biomass, atmosphere, oceans, entire ecosystems converted into fuel for reproduction. And Earth, blue, loud, chaotic Earth, was directly in their path. Aelyra's cruiser drifted in lunar orbit, cloaked. Her orders were clear. Observe human response. Record data. Prepare evacuation of any species deemed biologically valuable. Humans were not on that list. The warning. The first human broadcasts began 2 weeks before impact. Not panic. Not surrender. Preparation. Aelyra leaned forward in her command chamber as global networks lit up with cooperation signals. Nations that had warred for centuries ceased hostilities within hours of confirmation. Missile silos were emptied, not against one another, but repurposed into orbital defense arrays. Civilian manufacturing plants shifted production into weapon components. Satellites were reprogrammed into tracking systems. Even more surprising, they told their population the truth. The swarm was coming. Billions would likely die. There was no guarantee of survival. Yet instead of collapsing into chaos, the human species accelerated. Aelyra accessed comparative models. Under similar threat simulations, 82% of advanced species fractured internally before first contact. Humans? They unified. Not perfectly, not peacefully, but decisively. She found that unsettling. First contact. The Catastrophics arrived like a living storm. Organic war forms the size of cities. Tendrils of biometal. Carapaces layered with radiation-resistant plating. They darkened the sky. Human orbital defenses fired immediately. Railguns. Kinetic impactors. Nuclear salvos. The first wave of swarm organisms shattered into burning fragments. Aelyra's sensory feeds recalibrated. Impossible. The swarm adapted to most known weapon systems within minutes. Yet, humans layered their attack strategies chaotically. No single pattern, no reliance on elegance. Brute force interwoven with improvisation. One swarm Leviathan breached atmosphere over the Pacific. Human response time, for minutes. 4 minutes. They detonated 3 thermonuclear devices inside its central biomass core after sacrificing an entire carrier fleet to open a breach. The explosion vaporized the organism. Aelyra calculated the human losses. Acceptable. Not in moral terms, but in strategic calculation. They had chosen to bleed early to prevent planetary collapse later. Cold. Pragmatic. Effective. She adjusted her initial survival projection for humanity from 0.03% to 1.8%. Still negligible, but no longer zero. The fall of the sky. By day 5, orbital defenses were failing. The swarm learned. They always learned. Spore clouds infiltrated atmosphere, birthing smaller hunter forms across continents. Cities burned. Oceans churned with biological contamination. Human casualty numbers climbed into the hundreds of millions. Aelyra prepared to log extinction trajectory. Then something unexpected happened. Humans went underground. Literally. Massive subterranean networks activated. Cities beneath cities. Vaults constructed decades prior, once dismissed as conspiracy or paranoia, were real. Seed banks. Cryogenic archives. AI-controlled manufacturing hubs. The humans had prepared for annihilation long before it arrived. Why? Aelyra muttered to herself. Her tactical officer responded cautiously. Historical trauma index suggests humans evolved under persistent existential threats, disease, predators, self-inflicted wars. They had always assumed disaster was possible, so they planned for it. Above ground, human forces shifted strategy. No longer defending territory. Now, they targeted swarm reproduction nodes. Hit-and-run strikes. Suicide squads. Autonomous drone swarms programmed with adaptive combat learning. Messy. Inefficient. Relentless. For every city lost, they destroyed a gestation cluster. For every billion dead, they crippled a hive ship. They fought not to win today, but to make tomorrow survivable. Aelyra recalculated. Human survival probability, 12%. Her secondary hearts accelerated. The silence protocol. On day 12, global human transmission ceased. All of them. Military. Civilian. Emergency. The planet went dark. The swarm adjusted orbit, scanning for activity. Aelyra analyzed atmospheric readings. Radiation spikes. Electromagnetic disturbances. Energy redistribution beneath continental crust. Then she understood. They are overloading their grids, she whispered. Humans had triggered what their records labeled the silence protocol. A coordinated planetary blackout combined with a massive electromagnetic pulse cascade. Every functioning electronic system on the surface fried, including swarm sensory tendrils embedded in infrastructure. The cost? Human technology set back decades. The benefit? The swarm temporarily blind. From beneath the surface, hidden rail platforms emerged through concealed shafts. Projectile after projectile launched into low orbit. Not nuclear. Kinetic. Asteroids redirected over years, now unleashed at calculated vectors. The swarm fleet, disoriented, could not fully evade. 2 hive carriers fractured. 3 more crippled. The vacuum filled with frozen biomass. Aelyra stood from her command throne. Her crew stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. This species, one officer said quietly, is insane. Aelyra corrected him. No. They are desperate. There is a difference. Desperation ignores survival. Humans redefined it. The breaking point. The swarm retaliated. They always retaliated. A primary broodmother descended into the atmosphere over Eurasia. Her mass eclipsed entire nations. Human weapons barely pierced her outer layers. Aelyra's projections plummeted again. If the broodmother established a planetary nest, Earth would fall within 72 hours. Human forces launched everything remaining. Fighters, missiles, repurposed civilian aircraft packed with explosives. They failed. One by one, the broodmother reached ground. Continental crust cracked under her weight. Spore chimneys began forming. Aelyra prepared to transmit final extinction confirmation to the Council. Then Earth's mantle signatures shifted. Seismic readings spiked beyond natural possibility. The humans had done something unthinkable. They detonated a series of deep core fusion charges directly beneath the broodmother's landing zone. Artificial tectonic rupture. They sacrificed an entire region of their planet to create a volcanic supereruption. Lava and superheated gas engulfed the broodmother, destabilizing her internal gestation sacs. Human strike teams, protected in thermal exoframes, descended into the chaos. Aelyra magnified the feed. They were walking into magma storms. To plant antimatter cores. Not to escape. To finish it. When the explosion came, it tore a hole through atmosphere. The brood mother disintegrated. The surrounding landmass became uninhabitable for centuries. Human casualties. Catastrophic. But the swarm's command hierarchy collapsed. Disorganized hive ships began retreat patterns. For the first time in recorded history, the Karthik swarm withdrew from a target world. Aftermath. Earth did not celebrate. There were no fireworks. No triumphant declarations. There were funerals. Endless funerals. Oceans remained poisoned. Skies clouded with ash. Entire ecosystems gone. Human population reduced by nearly 40%. By all galactic standards, this was not victory. It was survival. Aelyra requested permission to descend. The council hesitated. Her report had already shaken them. A non-viable species had repelled an extinction swarm. Unacceptable in their predictive models. But permission was granted. Her shuttle landed in what had once been a coastal city. Now it was a reconstruction zone. Humans moved through debris with mechanical precision. Not broken. Not defeated. Rebuilding. A human approached her landing site wearing protective gear streaked with ash. He removed his helmet. Exhausted eyes. Burn scars. Determination. "You're one of them," he said, not accusing, just stating fact. "Yes," Aelyra replied. "Observer." He gave a tired half-smile. "Took you long enough to say hello." She studied him carefully. "You have suffered catastrophic loss." "Yeah." "Your biosphere remains unstable." "Working on it." "You nearly annihilated your own planet." He shrugged. "It was that or let it be eaten." Aelyra hesitated. "You were not expected to survive." He laughed softly. "Most things don't expect us to." Understanding. Over the following cycles, Aelyra remained on Earth. She watched humans adapt again. Ocean filtration megastructures deployed. Atmospheric processors seeded across continents. New agricultural strains grown in irradiated soil. They did not wait for perfect conditions. They worked with what remained. Children played near reconstruction sites. Engineers debated solutions over ration meals. Scientists mapped contamination zones while joking darkly about needing a bigger planet next time. Aelyra reviewed centuries of human history. Plagues. World wars. Climate collapse. Near nuclear annihilation. Again and again extinction loomed. Again and again they endured. Not because they were strongest. Not because they were most advanced. But because they refused to accept finality. She transmitted her revised conclusion to the Galactic Council. Humans are not statistically durable. They are psychologically defiant. They do not survive because probability favors them. They survive because they decide to. The Council requested clarification. Aelyra sent them footage of human workers rebuilding a school beside a crater left by alien biomass impact. Children painting over scorched walls. Laughter in the shadow of devastation. She added a final statement. If the swarm returns, humanity will be ready. And if something worse comes, I advise we stand beside them. The second signal. 3 years later, deep space sensors detected movement beyond former swarm territory. A new threat. Unknown. Vast. The Council panicked. Species began evacuation protocols. Aelyra received a direct transmission from Earth. The same human man appeared on screen, older now, scar across his cheek. "We heard there's trouble out there," he said. "You helped us rebuild orbital arrays. We're sending fleets." "You're still recovering," Aelyra reminded him. He nodded. "Yeah. But that's kind of our thing." Behind him, Shipyards glowed in Earth's orbit. Human vessels, patched, reinforced, improvised, launching one by one. Not sleek, not elegant, but ready. The Aelyra felt something unfamiliar in her secondary heart. Not skepticism, not doubt, respect. She opened a Dominion-wide channel. All Thauran fleets, she commanded, rendezvous with Human Expeditionary Command. A stunned silence answered her. Then confirmations. One by one, the human man grinned when he saw Allied signatures appear beside Earth's fleet. Guess you believe now. The Aelyra allowed herself the smallest inclination of her crest. I no longer measure your species by fragility. He raised an eyebrow. Oh, I measure you by resolve. The fleets jumped together into dark space. Toward uncertainty. Toward danger. Toward another possible extinction. But this time, humanity would not stand alone. And no one in the galaxy would ever again say, they will not survive. Because now they understood. Survival was not about being the strongest organism in the void. It was about refusing to surrender the right to exist. And in that, humanity was unmatched.